Chapter 10, The Changing World of Visual Arts. In this chapter, we will be discussing, with the influence of the colonial rule, how the painting and the arts have got transformed. So, in the colonial rule, the Indian art adopted many changes. So, now we can see here the domes, the columns and arches of a very large great buildings which emerged after the Britishers have come. So the Britishers want this to be painted. So they have thought for us the different styles of painting according to the Western's requirement, because these British officers wanted to take back these pictures home and show it to the people in their own homelands. And a scenic landscape. The scenic landscapes were also drawn very beautifully. The paintings are painted as if real pictures are present there, as if people are really present there. When you look at the image, we get this kind of impression. And portraits of human life, we see as if really a person is standing. That's how the real portraits are made. So in this chapter, we will be discussing the history of how the painting has adopted the changes one by one, from painting to the printing. Let us go into the details. New forms of imperial art. Now moving into the details, how the art got transformed with the influence of the Britishers. We will see here now. The pictures were popular in Europe. Now most of the Indian artists want to produce the pictures similar to that of the pictures which are very famous in the European countries. So they are inspired with the Western perspective. They are having the Western perceptions in that. How the Britishers, how the European countries used to portray the art, how the pictures are portrayed, in the similar way they started to portray by the Indian artists. When they started to portray this, the Europeans emphasized on realism. What is realism? Instead of being imaginative, being in the Ethiopian model, they started to produce in the real life. Look real. That is called realism. So the Britishers' art emphasized on realism, looking real, as if we are looking at the city, as if we are looking at the same person. Like this, the Britishers start to emphasize on the realism. But not all the Indians are attracted by the Britishers' painting style or the art style. Some of them did not follow that, but many of them have given their style getting transformed towards the Western style. Now, one of such model was picturesque. What is a picturesque? Picturesques are very famous during the Britishers' rule. What was that picturesque? A picturesque is a landscape, that landscape which is rugged, the landscape which is rough, rugged and wild, and the untamed by human hands. So you can look at that which is a wild in nature, which is a landscape, a scenic beauty, but rugged and wild, which is untamed by the human hands. So which shows that Britishers are here to civilize the people. So the underlying message of this picture is to show that Britishers are necessary to be civilizing this nation, this place, this group of people, the Indians. And who brought fame for this picturesque art was two famous artists, Thomas and his nephew, William Daniel. Thomas Daniel and William Daniel, famous artists of 1785, drew the picturesque of the British rule in India. And these picturesques are very famous for the Britishers. These pictures are exhibited also for a very closed quarters of people in Britain. A very elegant people, a very elite community people only were shown these pictures. These oil paintings what they used to paint are extremely famous in Europe, and the British public used to buy the albums painted by Daniels, the Thomas Daniel and William Daniel, to understand about the British rule in our country, to understand about the British Empire in our country. So like this, through the art, through the pictures, the Britishers started to influence the Indian artistic style. Thomas and William Daniel also portray two different figures. In the figure 1, they have shown India's cows, they have shown the houses, they have shown the traditional face of Indian villages. In the second picture, that is in the next picture, they have shown how the new capital city of Calcutta is built, how the constructions are going on, how the buildings are getting escalated. So all these things are shown. So from this also we can understand how India is earlier, how India is getting transformed under the Britishers' rule. So all these are expressed and preserved and shown to the Britishers in such a way that Britishers are transforming India into a modern country. Britishers are civilizing the uncivilized, training the untrained person to a proper human. So that's what the message was given by the Daniels through their picture scoop oil paintings. The portraits of authority. The portrait style has become immensely popular not only between the rich but also among the powerful classes of Indians and Britishers. We have many Indian royal families also portraying themselves as they are having the real power, though most of their kingdoms are controlled by the Britishers. And these are unlike towards the Indian paintings of miniatures. Indian paintings were short and not realistic. They are based on the imagination. But when it comes to portraits, what is a portrait actually? A portrait is nothing but a picture where the face, the expressions of a man is highlighted, and then the picture looks as if it is live, it is real. We have really the person standing there. Really we are visiting a village. Really we have a palace there. So that kind of appearance gets on a portrait. The art of making a portrait is called portraiture. So now portraiture means the art of making many of the portraits. So these portraits means getting the real life images captured by their paintings. After this is happening, in order to make a mark of my lavish living lifestyle or rich living lifestyle, luxurious living lifestyle, they started to portray themselves in different styles and different setups, making portraitures. Looking at the growing commissions in India, now many of the painters started to visit India because in India there is a growth for the painters who are painting the portraits really excellently well, because it is becoming immensely popular. So many people migrated to India. One such person who came to India was John Joffani. John Joffani was born actually in Germany, and in mid 1780s he moved to England. So he migrated to England. After 5 years he stayed in England, he moved to India. So in his journey moving across in India, he portrayed the pictures of the Indian governors of that time excellently, very well. He drew the pictures of the Europeans, especially the Britishers, as superior. They either be standing with their well-dressed dresses, with their control over the land, or sit in arrogant style. As well as when you look at the other side, you can see the long drawn the buildings of these governor generals or the important persons, and the side in the shaded region you get the Indian servants who are standing aside them. So that difference has been clearly portrayed by John Joffani, which we can observe in the pictures. And it was with the craze of this, many of the Indian kings who, even though lost wars with the Britishers, started to get socialized with the British, as they don't have any other alternative left out for them. They started to socialize themselves to these changes which are coming to them, and they are forced to sign a treaties with the Britishers. So one such ruler was Mahmud Ali Khan in 1770s. He lost his power to the Britishers, so he was commissioning some of the foreign painters. Chapter 9: Woman, Caste and Reforms. In this chapter, we will be discussing what are the problems of women, how the caste system restricted the women from going out of their houses, and how the reforms changed the lives of the women. It may be little bit astonishing and shocking to you people of this generation, because in your class you may be looking at girls sitting equally with you, sometimes competing with you, doing the works much skillfully than you people. But 200 years ago, the situations were completely different. Today, the girls of middle class and the upper middle class go to schools, continue their education, enter into the colleges, then into the universities, and also take up the jobs and pursue their careers. Even some women, even after marriage also, they continue doing works. This is the present day scenario. We have many people, especially the women, taking on the major roles like Smriti Irani, now the HRD Minister of Education for the entire nation. Then we have the SBI chairperson, Anuradha Bhattacharya, who is also a lady, a woman, who is leading that SBI managers. She is one of the main members in the board of the committees. And we also have Indrani, who is now the Pepsi company's CEO. Like this, we have Kochar taking over the ICICI chairmanship. So we have a long list of women being on the top positions right now. But 200 years ago, women were not allowed to go out of their houses. Men in Hinduism as well as in Islam can marry more than one wife, which means there is the existence of polygamy during that period. There was also very inhuman customs in practice. The sati system. Well, the sati system means where they have a child marriage system. So in order to understand the sati system, we need to know what is a child marriage. The small young girls are married to aged people. These small and young girls may be aged between 8 to 14 years, and they will be married from 50 to 60 years old men. So in a couple of years, that is in 2 years, 4 years or 6 years, when the old man passes away, the old husband passes away, the young girl who got married to the old man has to decide herself and burn herself with the burning of the husband's dead body. This brutal system was in practice for many hundreds of years in the Indian culture. So, with the dead body of the old aged husband, the young girl who doesn't not understand what is the meaning of the marriage has to burn herself alive with the dead body of the husband. This is the sati system. And once she decides, or somehow she is exempted, or she is not ready to burn herself there, then people used to force, beat her, torture her, and finally they used to make her to agree. As the time passed on, then we have many widows. These widows have to shave their heads, strictly use only white clothes, and they are not invited for any customs, any celebrations, or any important occasions. So all these things neglected or decreased the value of women. This was the scenario 200 years ago. The role of women in the Indian society around 16th to 18th century was just do cooking, domestic works, and give birth to children. Other than this, women are not allowed to go outside, go to any public places, go for attaining education. Education is a far dream for women. So this was the situation. So in this chapter, we will be discussing how the role of women, how did women walked out of the kitchen, breaking the barriers of the caste system and the Widow Remarriage Act, the banning of the sati system. Who took the initiative? The Britishers. How did they support? What happened afterwards? How did the Indian society react to the upcoming changes and the laws? So finally, what are the reforms that are made with regards to women and the caste system? This will be the main point what we are going to discuss in this chapter. Working towards change. It was a time when the printing has become affordable to common people. Because of this, many books, newspapers, magazines, leaflets were printed, which became very cheap and available to the public. As it is affordable cost for printing, people started to print the topics which have to be discussed. And the another fundamental point here we need to remember is the sacred books of Manudharma Shastra was not affordable to the common man. Though it is reachable to many people, to understand it is also a difficult task. But when it's compared to the newspapers, magazines, leaflets, it is written in the local language, local dialect. So it is very easy to get connected to the large mass of audience. So what is written in Manudharma Shastra was told by the Purohits, by the priest, by the Brahmanas to the lower caste people that these set of rules are given for women. In this part of Manudharma Shastra, this is declared. Girls are not supposed to enter out of the kitchen. They are not supposed to involve in the commercial activities. They are not supposed to go out of the house, wander in the public places, or get educated, take over the initiative to head the family. So all these things. They are supposed to do the domestic work. Their duty is to fulfill the domestic needs and also take care of the children. These are the wordings, these are the preachings given by the Brahmanas to all the public society as they have read the Manudharma Shastra, as they have read the Vedas, Puranas. Now, many of the intellectuals, as they are aware of the Western education, they want to have certain changes. Raja Ram Mohan Rai, who was worried by looking at the problems of the widows, who was moved by the inhuman practice of sati system so seriously, as he had the knowledge of Western education, he started to bring it to the notice of the public through his books, through the leaflets, through the pamphlets, through the newspapers, books, magazines, that it is a necessity to change the society. The society has to be changed. He believed strongly that the change is the utmost requirement of the present moment because there are many inhuman practices in our ancient culture. He also quoted very clearly what we are claiming that we are following the ancient custom, ancient traditions of the Indians, but in none of the literature books, as he is a well-versed man who knows Sanskrit as well as Persian, who referred all the Vedas and thoroughly understood what is the essence of the Vedas. So he clearly dictated that in any of the sacred texts or in any of the sacred books, there is nothing written to restrict women. So from where are we getting the claims of this? How are we claiming that in so and so book we have restrictions for women? This is not justified. What we are actually practicing is completely against the text which are written in the sacred books. So he started to bring out his views by making it reachable to the public. All these social, political, economical and religious issues are published in the books, newspapers. So as the time passed on, men started to read the books, understand the news, refer the magazines and try to know what is the change that is required and start to compare how is it in our country, how is it in the Western countries, what is the major change. There the women are not respected so much, but there is freedom for them and they have equality, opportunity for them. Women are given a little bit of freedom when compared to Indians. There is respect for women. In our society, we don't have that. And as we are claiming that in the ancient period, in the books of Vedas, Puranas, the sacred texts, there is written something which is restricting women to the house itself, confining her to stay within the house, within the four walls of the kitchen. But in practically, when he referred the books, he could not find any text relevant to this or supporting to this. So as he is a well-versed man, he started to analyze and criticize the practices which are being followed in our Indian society at that point of time. The other side of the coin now, the Britishers who gained the political control over the Indian land, who are having the political authority in their hands, who are actually against the Indian practices. They feel that Indians are uncivilized, need to be civilized. So the people, those are having this view, who heard to Raja Ram Mohan Rai criticizing the Indians. So now Britishers paid a way to listen to Raja Ram Mohan Rai. Britishers started to listen to Raja Ram Mohan Rai. Britishers are highly convinced with the views of Raja Ram Mohan Rai. And it was finally in 1829, the sati system, the inhuman practice of sati system was completely banned. This gave a boom to the other social reformers as the first remarkable achievement for a social reformer like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, who had a dream, who had a vision that the society needs to be changed. So this is the first milestone which he had achieved, which gave inspiration to the many of the social reformers after him who followed his path. So whenever there is a controversial practice, whenever the reformers want to question the controversial practice, they always used to quote a text from the sacred books and used to express their view using that text. So now here we have two important points. One, he is not criticizing directly. Two, he takes the help of the text to make the people to understand that in the text also we don't have anything relevant to the practice what we are following right now. So if in the sacred books itself we do not have the text supporting them, so how can this practice be justified? Then comes the question mark, whether it is justified or not. If it is not justified, then why are we practicing it from so many hundreds of years? Like this, the reformers used to enlighten the people, make the people to understand what are the practical problems of this, make them to understand how inhuman practices we are following. So all these things are followed. So the first milestone was achieved by Raja Ram Mohan Rai in 1829 by banning the sati system by the Britishers. He has formed Brahma Samaj with his vision to seek change in the society, which is a necessary according to his view. If you observe the Indian society, we also feel that yes, this change is inevitable. It is necessary for the Indian society to develop. Now, if you look at the society, it is far much advanced when it is 200 years ago. So, because of the steps taken by the social reformers 200 years ago, now we are able to see an equitable society where there are equal rights for men and women. Men and women can equally have the right to vote. Men and women have equal responsibility in the houses. Men and women today share the responsibilities, work in the offices, share the office burden also. And now many women are leading many large MNCs. Let us see what is the other major achievement of the next social reformer